a new episode of Mother Tales. And I'm here with Catrin. I met Catrin, when was it? 1 year? Oh my God, 1 year ago, I think.
So it wasn't spring this year, it was spring last
year. Yeah.
I think,
so
yeah.
more than a year ago,
Yes.
in Wales, in North Wales, during a birth, we were witnessing a birth together for a beautiful woman. And then we stay in touch, we follow each other in Instagram, and I will let you introduce Catrin, but I just want to say that one of the reasons I invited Catrin is that I love her connection with Mother Earth. And I was like, she's amazing to invite, and I want to hear more about her mothering story and what mothering means to her. So, Catrin, to you, tell us about you, a little bit about you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Catrin, and we live in North Wales. So we are nestled between the mountains and the sea in such a beautiful place. So I live with my husband and 4 children. And my eldest is almost 17 and my youngest is 2.5, so there's a good range of ages there, and I home educate the youngest 3, and we've been doing that for just over 2 years now. We have chickens and ducks, and we spend as much time outside as we can. The last few years I've been learning more about the herbs and plants that grow where we live. So we've been kind of on a journey together with the kids, learning about how we can use these plants and how we can learn about them safely. And also when we were talking about kind of connection with Mother Nature, to make that connection and to forage responsibly. And and I'm already seeing, the kids know so much already about plants, and they can pick up a plant and know what it is, and it's and it's beautiful to watch, really. And then I feel that kind of connects in with my work as a doula, as a birth worker, supporting women and their families in a holistic way. I like to focus a lot on the postnatal time, so cooking nourishing foods, and I make herbal teas that will support the mother afterwards. I feel really lucky that my whole life is kind of weaved together, and my children and my family are a part of my work, and it's all interconnected.
Yeah, beautiful. When you tell me that, I already vision in my mind. I have a vision about what it feels like, being a woman that does that for her family, her children, and her community, and how this is lost in our world. And the fact that you are remembering this, it's so beautiful. Do you think what's when you do that daily, because you go out and you connect with nature, what does it bring, this connection, to your life? What does it mean to you?
It definitely brings a sense of peace, and the rhythm of our lives is, I think, completely changed to, if I think about how my life was when my eldest was little. I worked full time and I dropped her off somewhere to be cared for, and our lives was dictated by this other kind of schedule that didn't really feel right. So kind of connecting with nature and living in this way, it's just, there's no stress. It might be like hard to believe, but there's just like no stress. It just feels more natural. If we wake up in the morning and we're feeling a bit more tired, then our day can reflect that. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Is it's just brought so much more joy, happiness, calmness to everybody's life.
And wow, I feel like the way how you tell me, like the energy, I feel already peaceful, and I can sense the energy. I love that. I love it too when I connect with nature.
Oh, there are plenty of crazy days as well. You know, I do have like three kids and 7. Yeah. But there's balance.
But you know that you can go back to nature and release that and actually use it to really find that inner peace back into your, or inner balance, or what you need back in your life. And how was your mothering journey, if you want to share? Like how is the balance between the crazy days and the peace days? I feel that this is also mothering and being a mother. So how is your mothering journey?
I mean, my mothering journey it's kind of almost in two halves, because when I had my eldest, I was only 18 when I was pregnant. So I was so young. And my mothering journey then was based so much on how my own mother was with me, and I didn't have anybody around me to help me or support me. So it was really a really lonely experience. But also from that, and not having anybody there, I was led so much with my intuition, and I think kind of the connection I have with my eldest is so special and is so strong, because it was really hard, tough, but we kind of grew up together, and there was no internet like there is now. You know, there was internet, but there was no, like the support groups and the connections, like Instagram, for example, that I have now, being able to kind of reach out and find women that are like-minded. There was none of that. So it was kind of me figuring things out myself, and so there's kind of that side of my mothering journey, and then obviously who I grew up to be. And when I had my second daughter 7.5 years ago, I knew I wanted to do things differently. I knew I wanted to be around more. I didn't want to be rushing around and leaving her. So we kind of made some changes to our lives, and I worked around my husband, and it worked. So we kind of started from there. And then, so I think that the biggest challenge was going from kind of a mother of one child for like 10 years. There's a 10-year gap between my first, second, and then having 3 in these 7 years. And then that's been wild, because siblings, they're noisy, they're busy, there's so much chaos. So I think that's probably been the biggest challenge of mothering. The second half is maybe learning that I can't regulate everybody else. It's impossible, but I've had to find ways to be able to regulate myself. So I'll do my best to. I don't always succeed, like everybody. If I'm tired or hungry, it's not always possible, but so mothering for me has been just discovering really who I am, and I think it's really definitely opened me up more spiritually, and I've met over the last few years some amazing women and families in this area. It's just that home educate as well, so it's kind of opened up a whole new life for us and connection, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, wow, that's beautiful. Yes. And what you said about that you can't self-regulate everyone, but the fact that mothering journey means getting to know you more, and be the mirror, I guess, be the mirror for your children and for your community as well, and allow yourself to be imperfect, because there is so much pressure on mothers of being, you know, that standards or that
Yes.
perfection or whatever. And in fact, slowing down and getting to know yourself more as a mother, as a woman, as a person, it's probably the best things that you can do for your children, knowing that there are days that are imperfect and it's fine, and days that they work.
Yes, and you know, interestingly, you know, all my children have completely different personalities, and what works for one doesn't work for the other. And you know, it's interesting what they bring up in you, you know, the things like when my third daughter came on, she is like fire. She is, you know, she's big energy, and that's been, you know, challenging for me. But you know, kind of taking it as an opportunity to learn what, you know, why, what is the, you know, what are the challenges and why. And she's taught me not to take myself too seriously, you know, to just stop needing everything to be a certain way. And
Amazing.
she's like it's not going to happen. And
And you know, there is something coming up for me because I'm studying a lot about our stories. I'm doing a master about compassionate inquiry, which is looking at with curiosity and compassion about our own stories, about the story of our own family and trauma. And there was a workshop I attended, and they were saying that who educate their kids, their children at home. Actually, there is this say people believe that if you stay at home, people like children are not able to connect with other children. But actually, studies, they found out that children that are educated at home, they have better connection with other children. What is your experience in that? How? And also, I'm curious to know if you want to tell us about home education. How did you start, and why did you choose that?
So my eldest has just finished secondary school, and she is going on to do kind of further education. So she's always been in school, but we had always kind of discussed, you know, when we had my second daughter, that we would like to. But at the time, it just wasn't kind of the right time. So she did start school. I think it was only a few months before all the schools closed, obviously 2 years, is it 2 years ago? It's been like a blur, but it's been, so that was an opportunity for us because schools closed, and it was in spring, and it was, you know, the weather was amazing. And I think my youngest was about 3 months old. So I was kind of deep in that postnatal stage of, you know, of mothering. And so we were kind of at home, and we loved it. We absolutely loved it. And I think it was kind of the push that we needed to take the step. I don't know exactly why I hadn't taken the step before, but I suppose some of it was fear. You know, could we do it? What would it be like? Could I manage? Because I think from other people's perceptions of when you have your kids with you all the time, it's like, oh, I don't know how you do it. You know, it's like overwhelming. When do you get a break? So I think there was kind of all of that. But we loved it. So that's what kind of pushed us really towards it. And also, I'd come to a point where I found that it was important to us that we were the main influences in their lives, you know, in a positive way, that we could spend all the time together and and be there for them, because obviously school takes up such a big chunk of their lives. It's, you know, it's kind of from the morning until late afternoon, and by the time you've made dinner, you know, it's, yeah, the day can be gone. So yeah, I think that was another important factor for us as well. And what was what was the first bit that you asked?
About the connection that children make with
other.
Yeah.
I mean, I found actually that they are so confident that they will go up to other adults, not just other children, you know, and ask questions and engage. And, you know, like we were at the beach earlier, and they will just go and make friends. I find them so open to, you know, towards like other kids as well. They want to play with everyone. They love that connection. And we just had a really lovely day last week where it was like a home education fair that somebody had organized locally, and it was to showcase everything that we loved about home education, and an opportunity for the children to have their own stall to maybe show something that they had been working on or things that they had made. So we had made some herbal remedies together, and the kids had hand rolled some beeswax candles, and we've gone there, and it was amazing. You know, you had all these families, everybody so different, bringing something different to it, so diverse, and the children were just like in a pack, you know, like a wild kind of pack. And yeah, it's beautiful. There's just, I find, having, you know, had the experience of having a child in school and these three nuns, I definitely feel there's I think openness is probably the best word. Openness to connect with others, with other children and other adults.
Yeah. And considering also your experience as a mother with your children and the work that you do as a doula, what would you advise? Like, imagine there is a new mother in front of you, and a woman who is about to give birth, and what would you advise to her for her postpartum?
So support, definitely. The support of, you know, the partner means so much. I always kind of encourage those conversations, you know, before the postpartum stage, you know, like, because there's so much focus on the birth, isn't there? The pregnancy and the birth, that sometimes, you know, women can get to the postpartum bit and they're like, oh, we hadn't thought about this bit. So yeah, having conversations about, you know, what's important to the mother, what she needs support wise. Does she want to have a lot of family and friends, you know, there to support her, or does she want to, you know, for them to have the time just together as a new family unit to get to know each other, and yeah, make sure that there's support there in the way of feeding, breastfeeding, because as you know, the support there, you know, isn't there when it comes to what's available for women if they need that extra support. It's really hard to come by, isn't it? So that's where, you know, women like doulas and obviously independent midwives, they've got that time to kind of invest in that support with breastfeeding and nourishment as well, because yeah, I think so many of us, I'm just thinking back to, you know, my first postpartum experience, and I couldn't tell you what I ate. Nobody cooked anything for me. I don't know what I ate. It was probably whatever I could grab. Did I eat anything nutritious? I don't know. I can tell you, but it's the love and support and care. I've had 3 amazing experiences, like postnatally. My husband is absolutely amazing, and I stay in bed and I eat my food in bed, and I know that my other children are cared for. I don't have to worry about anything. So
Yeah,
would
lots
always
of
encourage.
nourishing foods.
Yes, yeah, yeah, and
To
rest.
recover. Yeah.
Yeah, and not feel the pressure to go back out into
Mm.
the world to do those kind of normal things like the shopping and
Yeah.
because even when you feel good afterwards, it's so tempting to be like, oh, I feel great, and maybe we could go to a cafe, go to a shop, but I think you are so kind of open, like energetically, you kind of feel great, but then it's actually overwhelming, and yeah, you want to kind of run back home. So I would, yeah, to a new mother, I would just support and nourishment and taking it slow.
Would you
Yeah.
advise like warm food? What do you advise or cook for women? If you,
Yeah.
I think you cook as well or not? Or
Yes. Yeah. So I have, so I make kind of these postnatal food boxes. And the reason I kind of thought of that idea was because I wanted obviously there to be a service where family members could kind of order the food and me take it over, but I really wanted it to start a conversation and get people thinking about what new mothers actually need. So even if they didn't kind of ask me to cook the food, that they would go, oh, this is like a thing, there's somebody that kind of cooks nutritious food for new mothers, maybe we could do that. So that was kind of the most important thing for me, really. Yeah. And the foods I cook are kind of well digestible foods, well cooked foods with kind of warming spices, really, things that will kind of help digestion and circulation, and give the mother kind of like a boost.
Yeah. And lots of rest,
Lots of rest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I always say that even because sometimes you have like a surge of energy, after birth, and you feel great, and I go like, use that energy for healing, keep it, don't go and do something, like keep it in, and use it for yourself.
And actually I asked you about postpartum, but I wanted to ask you what being a doula and being at service, you use at service as a word, what does it mean for you, being a doula and be helping other women? What does it mean for you?
It means kind of giving something to the women in the community, something that's been lost. It's really difficult because I don't know much about how the Welsh women and the old Welsh midwives would have done things. It's really sad, it's so lost and forgotten that there's kind of nothing I can hold on to, really, that I can kind of use. So it's about thinking about what was important for me and the other mothers in my life, the things that were missing, and can impact somebody's whole life, the way they mother themselves. And so for me, kind of being of service is really just giving something back to the women of the community, so they can then be the best possible mother they can be as well. It's kind of that first kind of journey to motherhood. It's so important that they feel mothered themselves first of all and held. So
Beautiful. And also, we were talking about postpartum. I definitely agree that birth is there is so much focus on birth, and we forget about postpartum. But just sharing for those ones that don't know what is a doula, and that the doula can support also during pregnancy and during birth, and postpartum, of course, women, families, and communities to any way that she can support. I don't know what you say that for you focus a lot on postpartum, but I don't know if you want to add as well for pregnancy and birth, how can a doula support family, can support communities?
Yeah, so the pregnancy really is being that kind of that anchor for them, you know, the continuity of care, being that person that's, you know, that's kind of been there to support them throughout the whole pregnancy journey. And I think it's, for me, the most important thing is to make sure that they know I support them no matter what, that there's nothing that they could say that would make me go, ooh, you know, I don't know about that. It's having somebody there that completely trusts, you know, the process. And I feel like a lot of my work is supporting the partner, you know, and the immediate family. That's such a big part of my work as well. So I spend a lot of time getting to know them, and so when the birth comes, you know, we are kind of like one family. And I think that's probably one of the most important things that the mother needs for birth is that safety, that love and support, so she can, you know, do her thing and, you know, be amazing. And, you know, you've seen yourself the difference that makes when that fear has gone, you know, the fear of, you know, who's going to be there and, you know, what's going to happen when that's gone, and they truly feel safe. It's magic, isn't it? So
yeah, it is.
So yeah, so the kind of the whole pregnancy journey, the birth, and then yeah, the first few weeks after as well. So then the first few weeks, you know, as well as the food, it's yeah, I'm there for them. If they've got other children, I can, you know, help with them, do some light housework, and yeah, things like that.
And then on top of that, you are also a mother.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And, you know, and it's really, it really means I have to focus a lot on myself and making sure that my cup is also full, that I'm looking after myself, because it can be a lot of energy going out to kind of caring, you know, for making sure that kind of a lot of different people are okay, and my family. So so yeah, that's kind of an important part of this as well.
I want to ask you from this conversation, maybe it's not provocative, but it's just your vision about, because I can talk about my vision, but I always talk about my vision on birth.
Yeah.
And, you know, considering how the fact that interventions in birth are very high at the moment in some hospital, even in the UK, it's like almost 50%, for sure 40% of induction in some hospital, even more, even in Italy, even in so many other countries, in US and Australia. There are intervention, and most of them are unnecessary interventions, are really high. What is your vision? What do you, why do you think this is happening? And what is your, yeah, I would say vision. What do you think about what's happening in the birth world, in the birthing world? And also as a doula, how do you approach that? Because sometimes women, once they dream about birth, but then they ended up having another one. So what can you tell about that?
Yeah, I think the first thing when you were talking then that came to me was that, you know, there's like a disconnect from society has like a disconnect from birth, from death, from all of that. So I think so much of kind of the problems that are there are rooted in the disconnect, you know, from the earth. You know, it's all kind of connected, you know, the state of the planet, you know, the disconnect from nature, disconnect from ourselves, you know, and that primal side. That disconnect then Speaking for myself, as a woman, it's only kind of in the last few years really that I've learned so much about, my cycle and how I could be feeling in different parts of the month and how that kind of affects me. So from such a young age, we are not taught, how to have that connection with ourselves. So I can see how that directly affects the level of hospital births and interventions, because women are scared. They trust somebody else to tell them what they should do, because we're not taught that. We are not taught to kind of trust ourselves, our intuition. So many of us will be feeling a certain way about birth and what we want, but as soon as somebody, a medical professional or a consultant or obstetrician will kind of say one thing, it kind of overrides all of it, because we think, oh, this doesn't feel right, but this person must know best, for me and my baby. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. I know it varies from, health board to health board and country to country, but I think we are so risk averse. We are so focused on micromanaging something that really is, we can't micromanage. It's unpredictable. It's birth, it's life, it's nature.
Yeah.
We kind of treat women and our bodies like machines, like this linear kind of progressive thing, you kind of start here and you go there. We don't take into account that we are all different, and it's kind of all of that. And how I approach it as a doula is to really give the women that I support that space to feel all of that, to really feel into their own intuition. And most of the families and the women that support me are already, on that journey and already into kind of discovering all that. They know what they are looking for is for somebody to give them that space to carry on with that, not to kind of squash it down. So I feel like a lot of what I want to see is just women reclaiming their power and the knowledge of their own bodies. And I think from that, hopefully, we'll start to see some change, because the change isn't going to come from anywhere else, I feel. So, like a revolution, by bringing up my own children, knowing that is a kind of,
it
hopefully
starts from
a seed.
us.
It's like a seed of change just from there. So
And also what you were saying before about that we are disconnected, but that we kind of forgot how to trust our bodies. And maybe it's also part that our ancestor, our society, maybe, we were mentioning this before about how many stories are lost, even many stories of women and they gave birth so many times, and in the past, of our ancestors, or all midwives or doula, that they were doing this before, and this is not past anymore. It's forgotten. It's we lost how also to tell stories of how to reconnect with our body. And what do you think about that?
Yes, definitely. If you think how powerful it is to be able to kind of pass wisdom and knowledge on, and I think a lot of that is, again, that kind of disconnect, as a society, we're just so separate. Some of the things that we like to do with friends is we kind of hold circles and we sit in circles, and
beautiful.
It is beautiful, because hearing these other women's stories is such, it is just wisdom. And you come away from it knowing so much more about them, but about yourself as well, and about women. It's kind of like all weaving this tapestry, all these stories. Yeah, and sometimes when we were talking about because we feel like we are the first to kind of start again like this tradition, and it feels like it's kind of what are we doing? Are we doing this properly? And we're just like, well, we're the first to kind of start doing this again, so this is the way, and it'll get better. We are kind of trying our best, with what we know, and then our children hopefully will be able to, it will just come more naturally to them, hopefully.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah, I think once we reconnect with our body, probably our ancestral memory as well will be reactivated, or and passing into our children. I think, I hope it will be easier for you. We are doing it for them, but,
yes, exactly.
for you, that you are, maybe in a few years you will listen to this, and I hope it will be easy. Yeah. Catrin, I would like to ask you before we finish up your what you're learning about herbs and plants, and how do you weave that into your life, or the life as a doula? I don't know if you use it also when you work and with communities, with women, with families, or if it's just something that you love doing it for yourself and for your family. I would love to know more about what you're studying, what you are discovering with plants and herbs.
Yeah, so before I started looking into plants and herbs, I had like no idea, like nothing. It's something that was not in my life at all. I've got nobody in my family that had ever done anything like that. So when I came across it, it was completely new. And I think I was pregnant with somebody. Well, I can't remember how many years ago, but it could be like 6 years ago, when I was pregnant with my third, and I saw this like advert about it was called A Year of Herbs, and it was a local herbalist, this man who had a patch of land, and what he was offering was like every month that we would meet up and we would go for a walk, and he would show us the plants and herbs locally, and then we would go back to this cabin that he had and we would make something with it. And that first walk that we went on, it was just like a normal walk down this normal road, just, this average road. And he was pointing out all of these plants that I hadn't seen, that I had seen, but I hadn't. I was just like, this, really? You can use this for something, and this? And he was like, yeah, all of it. So it was like life-changing for me, because I couldn't believe that all this medicine was here, that we were just kind of trampling over, that I'd never even given a second glance to. That, yeah, it was just, yeah, like I said, life-changing, because from then on I did like that year of herbs kind of course with him, and I really loved that it was kind of like meeting in person, not just online, that we were he was showing us all these plants. And then from then I've just been learning from like books, like loads of books, and going out ourselves and picking plants. And yeah, so we use things to make kind of like, like thyme and honey. It's really two simple ingredients to make like a cough syrup, so simple. And this is what I always want to get across, that to anybody, that it is so simple and accessible to anybody. I'm so passionate about that. It's not, you don't have to have a fancy degree, in herbalism.
I always think that I need a lot to use herbs and plants, but actually you're right. When you look around,
exactly, it's there, and you can learn, and it's so satisfying. What you were saying about kind of remembering like this ancestral remembrance. It feels like that, when you're kind of doing it. It's like, oh yeah, it's not difficult. And I wonder if it's because it's the plants that are growing as well where I live, you know, where my own roots are. Because they say that the plants that would most benefit you in your life are the ones growing most kind of abundantly around you. So so I love that. So yeah, kind of herbal teas, really something simple that we make together. I make tinctures, which is like an alcohol-based medicine. So you kind of really simply put the plant or herb in a jar, and then you pour alcohol on, and then you leave it for 6 weeks and then strain, and then you have this potent medicine that's kind of extracted all the goodness. So I make those. And then yeah, for the women I support, like herbal teas, and there's like amazing plants like yarrow that are amazing for like stopping bleeding, or even like
Also
starting
menstruation.
yes so like, so it's amazing because this plant could bring your bleed on but also stop the bleeding, you know. If you think about childbirth, it's amazing. It's the more I kind of learn about it, I don't ever get tired of learning. I just get blown away. But and I'm now delving into the connection between the planets and plants. Like each plant will kind of correspond to like to a planet astrologically.
Wow.
So yeah, so you have like plants that are more kind of like fire, others are more kind of air, and like the qualities they have will determine how they affect the body. It's I'm just delving into that. That seems like a whole new world. I'll be like, whoa. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for passing to us this information. Yeah, I love a lot about plant, and thank you. I learned something new today that I don't have to study a lot. Actually, I need to look outside and maybe touch it, communicate, and just
yes, exactly.
kind of start a relationship with the plants. And
yes.
wow.
Yeah, because like a few of like the herbalists that I've spoken to, they say that is like the most important thing. Sit with the plants, get to know the plants. You know, it's something we don't do, and important.
Thank you. What would you like to is there anything else that would you like to share to wrap up our beautiful conversation? Anything that you would like to share, any advice or anything important that you learned in your journey as a mother, as a doula? Or, yeah.
I think for me, the biggest thing is for women to take the time to really get to know themselves and to trust themselves, their own intuition. Doesn't matter what stage in life they are, you know, it's so important because that has such a big impact on, you know, if somebody was going to have a baby, you know, that's going to directly impact kind of their birth journey, and every aspect of your life. So if I think about kind of my own mothering journey, it's been based like almost entirely on intuition and what you said earlier, not to be afraid to be imperfect and to mess up. We all mess up. Something that's like really important to me that you know, that wasn't kind of part of my life was when I do mess up, I own it and I apologize to my children, and because it's important for them to see that I am imperfect and human and I'm trying my best. So yes, to get to know themselves, trust their intuition, and not to be scared to be imperfect. And
Thank you. That's beautiful. I think we can wrap up and beautiful end. That don't be afraid and trust your intuition, your knowledge, your inner knowledge, inner wisdom, nature, plants,
all of it.
Thank you, Catrin,
Thank you, Laura.
for sharing this wisdom and with us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.